So how has the Bitcoin ETF fake news affected Bitcoin's price action? We can talk about this on the macro time frame, but just looking at this long-standing lower high resistance, we're seeing upside wicking beyond that key resistance, but price is still just below it. We're going to be talking about that in a lot more detail. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Like this video for more content like this going forward, and let's dive right in. So this is the lower high resistance, very analogous to what we've seen in 2019 and also 2020. This is the upside wick beyond this key resistance, and if we just zoom in to the bearish fractal that we're also seeing here, this is a diagonal resistance, and this is phase B of a potential bearish fractal. And we all know that this bearish fractal has been potentially playing out for a while, comparing that to phase A to B in 2021 and 2022. This is phase B, where we see upside wicking beyond that lower high resistance, and we're definitely seeing a lot of that upside wicking form right over here, very similar to what we've seen over the past few months with this FOMO trapping. Essentially, this is where we see a lot of FOMO into the uptrend before it's finally confirmed, and these FOMO upside wicks trap these longs and then reject towards the downside, and we're seeing a very considerable FOMO wick form as a result of the fake news that was proliferated by Cointelegraph not too long ago about a Bitcoin ETF being approved. And so the bearish fractal is still very much intact as a result, because it hasn't broken this lower high resistance. Phase A to B seems to be completing, and the more we just maintain below this lower high resistance, the more it's positioned for a rejection to finally give us that phase B to C in the fractal. And of course, at the moment, we are seeing 10% upside on the month in terms of this monthly level here, because overall it's 12% on the month. But generally speaking, we've seen upside wick here of up to 10%. So historically, earlier in 2023 and even in 2022, we've seen upside wicks beyond a key monthly resistance of up to 8%. And we're seeing currently a candle body and upside wick beyond the key level of 27,150. And this is an upside wick of 10%. So it's interesting, because in 2019 we saw upside of 10% in October, and now we're seeing 10%, 12% on the month. And at the same time, we also have to talk about this bull market EMA support band, which we broke beyond, rejected from the lower high, but that rejection enabled a retest of this bull market EMA support band, and we've successfully retested that. But the problem about that is that this move got us right back into that lower high resistance without actually breaking beyond it. Upside wick once again, like we've seen over the past few months. And the thing about this lower high is that we need to break beyond 28,400 to see this move materialize into a stable uptrend. So this is the downtrend that needs to be broken for a confirmed breakout move to new highs that we haven't seen since the summer, really. So a weekly close beyond 28,400 would enable the first step, at least, into confirming a breakout beyond this point. But because we've upside wicked so considerably, and we've seen long upside wicks in the past as well, but not as long as this one, staying below this key resistance could set price up for a rejection once again. And it all plays into the fractal here, because if we focus on the fractal in terms of the bull market support band, we've seen upside deviation beyond this bull market support band in 2022 as well. And at the moment, we are upside wicking, or at least upside deviating beyond that bull market support band, as you can see here. This is the bull market support band, and currently this could very well be a deviation beyond that bull market support band, just like we saw in 2022. So phase A to B still very much in the balance, still very much intact. And that's something that we really need to focus on, because if we can't break beyond 28,400, then phase A to B of this bearish fractal will still be intact, and that will predispose price potentially to just still pursue a phase B to C. And how does this look like on the macro stage? because the orange box right over here, that's the pre-halving period. And in this pre-halving period, we tend to see a lot of upside volatility and also downside volatility, as we can see. Lots of macro accumulation to both sides. So in the next 120 days, we could actually see some sort of downside into as low as 20k, which is this macro higher low. And this macro higher low has been revisited in this cycle on 3 occasions, whereas in this cycle 1, 2, and we don't have that third point. So if we are to experience a deeper retracement in this year of 2023, and generally even early 2024, so over the next 1, 2, 3, 4 months or so, then a deeper retrace would occur in that time period, and it would be technically macro accumulation in the same way that this general range has been macro accumulation in a very similar way that 2019 was macro accumulation before we saw that parabolic uptrend to new all-time highs. And that's something we'll probably see as well once we've finally cleared this range. But for the time being, that fake Bitcoin ETF news only saw us propel to the 30k region. But you can even see that this upside wick here rejected at the range high resistance and also rejected at the lower high resistance. So we're still in the same place, technically speaking, below the lower high resistance, potentially positioning for further downside going forward. And that's just generally what we see in a pre-halving period. We tend to see lots of volatility to either side, but no real trend shift, no major trend change in terms of breaking out to new highs. Generally just consolidation, and this is probably going to be the case over the next 4 months, at worst seeing 20k, maybe even sub 20k very briefly, but that's going to transition us into the pre-halving rally phase, which is this light blue box right over here. We've seen this before. Post a deeper retracement, this is where Bitcoin tends to recover and rally quite strongly. And it's during this pre-halving rally that we're able to just catch up on a lot of the gains that are shedded, a lot of the valuation that's shedded on this retrace. This is where Bitcoin is able to catch up and make up for all that lost valuation within a very short period of time. And that period of time is 60 days roughly. So 2 months is what this pre-halving rally is probably going to amount to before we finally revisit this pre-halving retrace blue circle, where we kind of local top in the new year just before the halving, just like this, and consolidate at highs while still performing quite significant retracement towards the downside of around minus 20% to even minus 40%. It could be up to minus 40%. However, it really does depend on how volatile this rally is, because if we get a less volatile rally than this, for instance, because this had lots of downside wicking, a V-shaped reversal, that really does depend on how shallow or how deep that rally is going to be. So if we just revisit into 20k, then we could revisit these current levels once again and then potentially retrace 20 to 30% to retest the top of this lower high resistance into a new support, so as to facilitate the next move up, so as to try and challenge this range high resistance here in the same way that we did post 2020 halving. This would enable a reaccumulation range. This is generally this red box, which is the post-halving resistance. This is the post-halving reaccumulation range, essentially. And this is where some reaccumulation is going to happen after that pre-halving retrace has recovered. And reaccumulation for multiple months is probably going to be on the cards after the halving. But before, or at least once we finish that, we break beyond this range high resistance and rally to new all-time highs. So this Bitcoin ETF news has only enabled upside volatility without creating any meaningful trend shift and break in market structure. But if you want to learn more why Bitcoin is in a confirmed macro bull market, check out the top right hand corner video, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Subscribe for more videos. Speak to you soon.